What is going on, everybody? It's the Frost, and we're here for what is the big day, Grand Slam, which somebody actually said on social media this was, like, they don't like the names of AEW's things. They think Grand Slam's a stupid name, even though they don't realize that they're in a tennis stadium, and it is, what is the biggest thing you go for in tennis? The Grand Slam. So that's why it was called AEW Grand Slam. Was it a Grand Slam? No. Match placement made no fucking sense. The fact that you had Kenny Omega and Bryan fucking Danielson in the opener compared to the main event just blew my fucking mind. Oh, they want to try and make the women feel special and everything. No. Everything after the first match just did, like, CM Punk came after that match and had a fire promo. And honestly, he was right. How do you top this match? How do you top Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega in AEW? You don't. You just don't. There was nothing they could do from, like, yeah, MJF and Brian Pillman Jr. was fine. FTR and Sting and Darby Allin was fine. But there was nothing you could get out of this show tonight past that first match. Now, obviously, this match had to go very long because you look at the 5 matches they had tonight. Bryan Danielson, Kenny Omega was going to go as far as they needed to go. Whereas everything else could have went 10 minutes and that's it. For every single match. That's just how that goes. But yeah, CM Punk said it best. I'm glad I'm not wrestling tonight because how do you follow that? It was an epic match. It was a match that makes you love professional wrestling. Everything else on this show just... Honestly, it felt like Bryan Danielson and... If you took Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega away from this show, it would just feel like a normal average episode on Wednesday night. That's the truth. If you started the show from CM Punk's promo to the end of the night, I mean, yeah, the crowd was great for most of the night. I think they tapered off towards the end. Like, it just felt like they were finally getting burnt out. And the fact that I feel bad for this crowd because they're going to have to sit there for another 2 hours for CM Punk versus Hobbs, the tag team match between Suzuki-gun and Moxley and Kingston in a lights out match. What can you like? I hope they have something like an intermission or something for these guys, because having this show, and pretty much the best part of the show was the first 2 things. Of course, was the dream match that everybody's been wanting to see in the CM Punk promo. There's literally nothing else to do on the show. You could skip the rest of the show and be like, as soon as Bryan Danielson and Omega were done with the match and CM Punk had their promo, you could have shut the show off, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to shut the show off because they turned on the show to watch Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega, and just move on with your night. Go to bed. If you're sleepy and tired and you're like, oh, they're starting off with the big match, that's fine. I'm going to watch that. CM Punk's up next. I'll watch that, and I'm going to go to bed. Honestly, I don't know who decided we're going to start which. If you had a bigger match to close the show with Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega starting the show, I would have been absolutely fine with. But the fact that you did not have any single match on this show that should have closed this show other than Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson, it still boggles my mind that you started with that match. So that's all I gotta say about that. As I said, we started off with Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega. As soon as Bryan Danielson's music hit, because of course he came out first, the crowd was on fire for this guy. 20,177 fans were in attendance. This ain't WWE, so you know those are not fake numbers. So the guys just get in the ring, they're standing there, and before they even touch, the crowd is losing their minds. They lock up. The crowd loses their shit. Even the commentary has to mention how they go crazy for a lockup. Just going completely nuts for this match. I can tell you right now, anybody who tries to go blow by blow for this match, you are not going to do this match justice. This match was just fan-fucking-tastic, start to finish. There's, like, moves, like, now, Bryan Danielson said that he's going to be a more dangerous, more vicious wrestler in AEW than he was as Daniel Bryan in WWE. And honestly, I didn't see that tonight. Honestly, it felt like I was watching the guy we just watched at WrestleMania, during WrestleMania's main event back in April, wrestling a match against Kenny Omega and tearing the fucking house down. And Kenny Omega just doing everything he can to just go out there. And Kenny Omega, the thing about Kenny Omega is that he goes out there every night trying to have the best damn match he can have. Bryan Danielson goes out there and does the same exact thing. There's wrestlers out there who don't do that. They just go out there and have a good enough match to get through the day. These guys want to go out there and give you a damn good match. Now, I know on predictions last Wednesday, I predicted that Bryan Danielson is probably going to lose because Kenny Omega should not be losing in non-title matches. This isn't WWE. And Bryan Danielson did put it, if you watched the Road to GrandSlam yesterday, Bryan Danielson made it clear, like, if wouldn't it be something if he beat the champion? Wouldn't that just make him automatically number one contender? So that right there told me they gotta do what they're gonna do. Either Bryan Danielson's gonna lose, or they're going to time limit draw. And when JR said on commentary, this match is a not 20, but 30-minute time limit, I'm like, they're definitely going to a time limit draw. Now, for whatever reason, for GrandSlam, they decided we're going to do a big, huge, fucking colorful ramp from the stage all the way to the ring with no open area right there, so anyone could do a dive, they could, like the Bucks will do probably later on. So during the midway part of this match, out on the ramp, or the ramp, Kenny Omega decides to hit a Snapdragon suplex onto Bryan Danielson, and that was scary as shit. I'm sitting there watching this, and like he hits that Snapdragon, and you just see it looked like Bryan Danielson's body went limp, and he starts just withering, and his body just starts withering in pain. It looked so scary. Everyone knows how bad Bryan Danielson has had neck injuries. He's had problems with concussions. He was forced to retire for about a year and a half because of injuries to his neck and his head and everything else. And just seeing him take that spot, you had to, like, if you didn't cringe watching him take that spot. And on top of that, Kenny Omega decides to go all the way back up to the stage, run down, full stop, hits the fucking V trigger on this man, knocking him again, and he just sits there and his body is just convulsing. That's the word I'm looking for, convulsing in pain. You just cringe at seeing Bryan Danielson just like, this is his first match, and if he takes those moves wrong, it's going to be his last match. Just, holy shit. And I don't know what it is, but every time Bryan Danielson takes chops to the chest multiple times, he gets fucking red as shit. Go watch the Greatest Royal Rumble back when Roderick Strong went chop happy on Daniel Bryan's chest. The dude came up looking like he had hamburger meat, and that was the same case tonight. It was just nasty. But obviously, this went to a time limit draw now. This wasn't like other time limit draws where it looked like they were down to their last breath. And something that was really bothering me is because usually during these matches, during any match in AEW that goes over 10 minutes, we get 10 minutes down, 10 minutes left. We didn't get none of that. Well, we might have, but the crowd, we didn't hear. The crowd was so fucking loud, we couldn't hear Justin Roberts on TV. So right before the bell was gonna ring for the 30 minutes is up, I could barely faintly hear Justin Roberts chime in for something, and they said, and they're like, we're down to the last 45 seconds of this match, and I'm like, this is going a time limit draw. So these guys, running knee by Daniel Bryan in the corner, Bryan Danielson in the corner, Omega with a B trigger, both hitting each other with both go down. Comedy stage well at 45 seconds. Both guys were up to their knees, throwing punches and headbutts. Danielson and them battle away, and the bell rings to the time limit draw. These guys are still fucking beating the hell out of each other. They're fighting. Bryan Danielson has the label lock on for a second. When the Elite come in, no Good Brother, it was just Adam Cole and the Young Bucks, thank goodness. I think it's time for the Good Brothers to go back to Impact Wrestling and do their dates at Impact. But they're going to come to AEW, finish up with Impact, and then come over here. Crowd is pissed. Crowd is booing. They are not happy. They wanted these guys. They chanted "Fight Forever" for majority of for the back half of this match, and I'm like, yeah, well, it's kind of saw this coming. Calling the Young Bucks and triple super kick. Danielson outruns Christian Cage Jurassic Express to help clear the ring. And this was the opening match of the show. I don't know who thought they were going to be able to follow this, but this was an epic match. If you're going to watch one match and you have 30 minutes of time, 30 minutes of time, check this match out. I can't do it justice. Nobody can do it justice. These guys went out there and said, hey, I'm better than you. You're not, and you're saying, oh, you're better than me? I'm going to prove that I'm better than you. And we got that tonight. And this was a damn good match. When are they going to have a rematch? Because you know the rematch has to come. The rematch has to come. And some people I saw saying Full Gear. And I'm like, no. The match between these two for the definitive winner will not include the AEW World Championship. The next time these guys have a match, this guy, Kenny Omega, has to drop that title. Just plain and simple. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, AEW, this is a crazy thing. In the month of September, AEW has produced not one, but two Match of the Year contenders. The Young Bucks and Lucha Bros inside the cage at All Out, and this match tonight, a 30-minute draw. And honestly, it's a toss-up. Whichever floats your boat, which one you think is better. Both of them are great matches in their own right. And again, I don't know when the rematch is going to happen, but you don't do it anytime soon. You have these guys. You have Bryan Danielson under contract for 3 years. You have Kenny Omega. Who knows how long he's under contract. You don't have to do the rematch tomorrow. You don't have to do the rematch at Full Gear. Kenny Omega and I do not want to see. Here's the thing. One of the biggest complaints that people had with Impact Wrestling is that they would sign a WWE cast-off or somebody who work for WWE, and they have a big name. Mick Foley, Booker T, Sting from WCW, of course, Kurt Angle, and they would take any plans that they had going, that they were building up for long-term storytelling, throw them in the bin, and focus on the talent they just signed. Hangman Page is gone still. I hope he's back very soon. He should be back here very, very soon, hopefully. And the story you've been building for 2.5 years is Adam Hangman Page winning the AEW Championship. I don't give a fuck how good Bryan Danielson is. I don't give a fuck if people want to see him challenge for the AEW Championship. The story you have been building and you need to continue and you need to get through is Adam Hangman Page dethroning Kenny Omega. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. After that, then, and only then, should you be worrying about Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson too. Until then, until Kenny Omega drops that championship, I don't want to hear anything about Bryan Danielson, Kenny Omega 2. Now, after the match, all that stuff happened. We go to commercial, we come back, and it's CM Punk. Here's what CM Punk had to say about the match and what had happened before this segment and what's happening this Friday.
Nobody commands an audience like this guy.
I sure am glad I'm not wrestling on Dynamite. How do you follow that? How do you follow that? It's been a long time since I've been in New York City. It's been an even longer time since professional wrestling has been in New York City. I hear people tell me that I need to be mad, and I need to be pissed off, and they want the old CM Punk. Well, trust me, I'd imagine eventually you'll see him, but be careful what you wish for. Hobbs, Team Taz. Half of y'all are from here and they don't even like you. I tried to walk down that aisle in Mean Mug, and I came out here and I see and I hear all of you, and I just crack a smile. And really, what do I have to be mad about right now? And then I think about it. Last week on Dynamite, they tricked me. Hobbs jumped me from behind, and they put me through a table, or they tried to put me through a table. And yes, it pissed me off. And yes, I'm mad about it. But when my music hits and I step out on that stage, I can't help feeling the way I feel. That pissed off feeling goes away, and I come out here, and yes, it's a love fest. And yes, I'm smiling. And yes, I'm happy. I'm happy to see you. But of course, I think what they did, or what they attempted to do, was take all of this away from me. They don't want to hear Cult of Personality. They don't want to see happy CM Punk coming out here and enjoying professional wrestling fans. And then, well, then I get really pissed off, because it's been so long since I felt this. It's been so long since I had this. It's been so long since I needed this. I get pissed off because nobody is going to take this away from me. This is mine once again. And Team Taz, Hobbs, you should have picked me back up, and you should have finished the job. You should have put me through the table. You should have broke my neck. You should have made sure that the 20,000 people who have packed the rafters in Arthur Ashe Stadium weren't going to get to hear Cult of Personality. But you made a mistake, and you let me live. And really, you slept on the legend of CM Punk. And it's not my job to wake you up. It's my job to tuck your ass in. Rampage. Grand Slam. Powerhouse Hobbs goes to sleep.
That was one hell of a promo from CM Punk. get you all fired up and ready for Hobbs and CM Punk on Friday night. Should be a good match. I'm sure I'm not the only one wondering, when is Hook going to get in that match? When is Hook going to get into wrestling? Is CM Punk going to be his first opponent? And man, what a first opponent that would be for CM Punk. So, yeah. Can't wait to see what happens on Friday. Of course, that's getting taped as we speak right now. Moving on. MJF with Wardlow versus Brian Pillman Jr. with Julia Hurt. Of course, Griff Garrison is selling his injuries from 2 weeks ago. Now, before the match even really gets underway, MJF's backing off and he's like, puts his hand down. He's like, come on, pal, let's shake hands. Brian Pillman Jr. is like, fuck this shit, pulls him, lifts him up, slams him down and starts beating the fuck out of him. Chops to the chest just to annoy Pillman, chops to MJF's chest, kick to the chest, and avoids strikes. MJF able to get back in, kick to the corner, flips him into the corner, then taunts a bit to the crowd. Pillman able to put MJF down, backslide pin for a 2 count. MJF is really beating up Pillman. Where's your boy? MJF yells at the crowd. Pillman with some chops, heads up top for the nails. MJF with a high crossbody. Pillman's arms are banged up from the match. He hits a clothesline and then a thrust kick. MJF gets sent to the turnbuckle 9 times. Fights off the tent, charges in and takes a spinning power slam. MJF rolls out to the floor. Pillman looks for a dive, but MJF pulls Hart in front of him. He shoves her to Pillman and clocks Pillman. Hart throws down her pom-poms and then goes over and yells at him, shoves him for a second. He grabs her, he goes to grab her wrist and says, "Who do you think you are?" Pillman drop kicks through the ropes, stops and high-fives Hart, looks for a springboard, but MJF catches him into the salt of the earth, and Brian Pillman Jr. taps out. The outcome was never in doubt, but this is a big step for Brian Pillman Jr. This dude never, probably in his wildest dream, thought he would get to wrestle anybody on Stadium, unless it was on Dark or Dark Elevation, for the biggest show in AEW history, the biggest crowd in AEW history. Good on him. Alex Marvez talks to Chris Jericho and Jake Hager at their match on Friday against Men of the Year. Hager says they're more like a bunch of boys falling around a fat-faced dipshit. Hey. No, please no. Keep Hager off the mic. Jericho could do all the talking. Jericho says they're the toughest team in AEW. Lambert decided to put his nose in their business and he's going to bite it off. He says, bring the rest of to make a top team because they're ready for Rampage. We go back out and the lights go down. The lights come back up. It's time for Malachi Black versus Cody Rhodes, who comes out with Arn Anderson and his wife's back. Good for her. Don't give a shit. One thing you can take away from this match, New York does not like Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes was booed the entire match. Everything he did got a boo. Everything Malachi Black did got cheered. Nobody wanted to see Cody win this match. And if Cody would have won this match, I would have tried to get a campaign going on social media to say, hashtag fuck Cody Rhodes, because Cody Rhodes doesn't like to put anybody over. Now, there's a really questionable spot in this match because Cody looked like he picks up the win. Arn gets up on the apron. Of course, Malachi kicks out. Arn tries to go from one side of the ring to the other by not getting down and getting back up, by just going around the turnbuckle or the ring post, and falls flat on his ass. I don't know what the fuck that was, but that was not pretty. So he gets back on the apron because what he was trying to do was get to the middle of the ropes opposite the stage of the entrance to have Cody get thrown into him, which ended up happening, which in hindsight, the way the match went out, it's like, what was the point of that spot? The referee was distracted and Malachi did nothing. It would have been one thing if the referee would have been distracted and Malachi hits a fucking low blow to Cody and then hits whatever they're calling the finisher, and wins that way, but that didn't happen. It's like they did the spot, and Cody, like, nothing happened. They just went back to wrestling. Cody eventually knocked him off the apron, sending him to the floor so he can go check on Arn. He gets to Arn and he's asking Arn, "You alright?" Arn said, "What? Don't worry about me. What the hell are you doing? Get your ass back in the ring. Don't worry about me." Which, of course, commentary is like, "Oh, that's right. Like, don't worry about him. Just get back in the ring." He goes over to get Malachi, who's actually it looked like he was looking for something in the middle of the under the ring, but he wasn't for whatever reason. Anyway. They get back in the ring. The referee, Cody, is beating up on Malachi. Malachi's just taking the punishment. The referee's trying to get Cody to stop. He's beating him up. He pushes the referee away, which in any other company that besides New Japan, that would be a DQ. So no DQ here. Malachi uses the Black Mist, rolls Cody up. 1, 2, 3. Malachi Black wins again. You couldn't give Malachi 2 clean victories over Cody. No. They had to have Cody lose in a cheap way. Usually we get a full slate of what we're going to see next Wednesday, but we did not this week. Only thing we know happening next Wednesday is Miro versus Sammy Guevara for the TNT Championship. After Rampage went off the air last week, or after they were done taping Rampage, Sammy Guevara got on the mic and challenged and pretty much said, "I'm coming for your title and I'm going to take the TNT title from you to Miro." So that's happening next week. FTR and Tully Blanchard versus Sting and Darby Allin. If I told you I gave much of a shit about this match, I don't, because it's just... I don't really care to see Sting in the ring all the time. And not much. Like... Keep him on the outside. You could have Darby and somebody else team up to take on FTR. Hell, this would have been the perfect place to have, because Santana Ortiz and FTR are tied 1-1 in their illustrious feud. They need to have a rubber match. I know Santana Ortiz and the Lucha Bros are teaming up in an 8-man tag, which is being taped tonight. I think that's doing Santana and Ortiz a little dirty. I think they should have been in this spot. Sting and Darby Allin could have been the ones to make the save of the Lucha Bros just for the hell of it, and you could have had them be a part of that 8-man tag match. This should have been the spot for Santana Ortiz versus FTR 3. The winners would eventually become the number 1 contenders to the tag team champions, but unfortunately you had to give us FTR losing to Sting and Darby Allin. So, Sting actually got a lot of work in on this match. I'm surprised. Like, Darby started the match, but it almost immediately tagged Sting in when FTR, who were rocking some NWO black and white gear inspiration, which I'm sure I know somebody's not going to say this, but I'm sure they saw what Kofi and Xavier Woods were doing on Monday Night Raw with the NWO Wolfpack stuff, or the Outsider stuff, and said, let's do that, only let's do the NWO black and white. Now, Sting had Dax in the Scorpion Deathlock at the end of this match. Darby was hung up on the tree of woe because they were gonna try and go for it. I don't know who thought this was gonna work. A Scorpion Death Drop and Coffin Drop combo, apparently. But Wheeler stopped that, and in the Scorpion Deathlock, Wheeler gets under the bottom rope to try and pull Dax to the ropes. Darby decides, fuck this shit, I'm going to do a coffin drop to Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, on the corner of the apron. Holy shit, that was scary as fuck too. Wheeler, Harwood taps out, and that is that. Friday, of course, on Rampage. We already went over those predictions last Friday, but Anna Jay versus Penelope Ford. Honestly, that match should be on Dark Elevation. Just saying. John Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus Lance Archer and Minoru Suzuki Lights Out match. That's going to close the show, whether any people want to do it or not. World Tag Team Champions of Lucha Bros and Santana Ortiz and Private Party and the Butcher and the Blade. CM Punk versus Powerhouse Hobbs. Chris Jericho and Jake Carragher versus the Men of the Year. Adam Cole and the Young Bucks, known as the Super Click, versus the Impact World Champion Christian Cage and the Jurassic Express. So that is Friday, and honestly, as of the card we had tonight, I think the card on Friday looks better. Other than the Dream match, like I said, I don't know who thought putting the Dream match on first was a good idea. Honestly, I would have the women's title match there first, but they wanted to go the other way, and I think it was a bad idea. But I will say this. Yeah, the show, just like I said, you take out the Dream match, you take out the CM Punk promo, this would have felt like a normal episode with, like, at Orthodox Stadium. This doesn't feel like a Grand Slam. It feels like they hit one home run and then a bunch of singles, doubles, and triples. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna have to admit that. That's what it feels like to me. Then you have the main event. Ruby Soho took on the AEW Women's World Champion. This match was, let's just say this. Ruby Soho showed you when the lights are on, she can go. And this is the woman that WWE never let do anything. Do you think she was ever going to get this type of spot in WWE? Hell no. She was in NXT for like 6 months. Didn't really do nothing there. She was one of those talent who was just racking up wins and was starting to be used as somebody who would have been a major player in the NXT Women's Division, and then just got caught up with Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan, and really didn't get to do shit. But she came here, and in this match tonight, she looked like somebody who could be a future women's champion. I've been saying it. AEW's got it already preordained. Who's going to be the next women's champion? It's Thunder Rosa. You can't deny that, because apparently she was on Dark Elevation taping tonight, and she had like the biggest pop of the show before we got to TV. So when the champion and Thunder Rosa have that third match, or that next match, if Thunder Rosa doesn't win the championship, I would be utterly shocked, and I think Tony Khan would have definitely had lost his mind by then. But on the other hand, the champ, let's see, botch, bad move, damn near broke Ruby's neck, botch, wins because Jamie Hayter pulls Ruby Soho's neck over the ring, over the top rope, allowing her to put on the lockjaw to pick up the win. Terrible ending to, honestly, like I said, it was a good night, but again, I don't know who thought, let's put the women on last, but let's put it makes sense if you want to say, because, this is the first time ever, let's give them a banger of a match to show what we can do for New York. But there is no way in hell I would have put Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega on first in any way, shape, or form. Not in 2021. Maybe back when they were first starting out, but not in 2021. That was a massive mistake, and they should. And Tony Khan should look back on this night and be like, yeah, that was a bad idea, because the rest of the show just felt flat. Now I see a lot of people were not liking the fact that Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega went to a draw. Too bad. It was the one that made the most fucking sense. There was no reason to have Kenny Omega win this match. There was no reason for Bryan Danielson to lose. There was no reason for Kenny Omega to lose. So having them go to a time limit draw was the best thing you could do. Maybe next time they will have a championship match, which I think would be the biggest fucking mistake, because that match goes to fucking to Adam Hangman Page, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But this was a damn good match. The show, like I said, the show could have been, it could have been a lot better. It's just the biggest detriment to this show was the match placement. Plain and simple. Because you don't want the crowd to waste most of their energy in the opening match. You could have had MJF versus Brian Pillman Jr. open the show. Plain and simple. Could have had them open the show. Omega and Bryan Danielson still could have closed. You could have had Ruby and the Champ be the semi-main event, and it would have been a much better show. It would have been a much better formatted show. But having the match of the year candidate be your opening match was the biggest fucking mistake they made on this show. So, yeah, if I would say this is a Grand Slam, no. The first match was a grand fucking slam, but everything else was just, meh, it was another episode of TNT on TNT. But that is your AEW Grand Slam review. Hit that subscribe button, comment down below, like or dislike this video. Find me on Minds of the France Club, find me on twitch.tv/the France Club, and find me on Instagram at the France Club, and I will see you guys on Friday for 4 hours of 2 hours of sports entertainment and 2 hours of professional wrestling. Until then, my name is France, and I'll see you guys later.